There's another story out today which a lot of the other broadcast media have gone completely wild on. It involves a report from the Children's Commissioner, Dame Rachel D'Souza, a woman I've got a lot of time for, but she's been looking into strip searches. This after it was a black girl who was strip searched at school without an appropriate adult present, and it was all very humiliating and upsetting and traumatic for her. Then we discovered this was happening, quite a few thousand happening every year. We're talking about children. We're often talking about 16, 17-year-olds, by the way. But she's discovered that 1 in 20 child strip searches by police were not compliant, so weren't for a good reason, didn't have an appropriate adult present, but also that 47% of strip searches result in no further action. So they're searched for either drugs or a weapon. They don't have it on them, and therefore they were, you could argue, wrongly searched, but was there reasonable grounds for believing they had a weapon? But black children. This has been the focus for the BBC and Sky. Black children are 4 times more likely to be searched than white children, as if this is, by definition, must be racism, by definition. But we know who the kids are who are being searched. The kids are being searched in inner city, high crime areas where there are a lot of knife carrying and a lot of drugs, right? I mean, you worked in the Home Office, Kate. More than half of all teen black children live in inner city areas, more than half by a long way, for long-standing, socioeconomic reasons. When you're comparing black children with the whole of the white child population, you're comparing kids who are living in a village in Devon. Well, no, funnily enough, the police aren't strip searching them because there isn't a knife crime or a drug crime epidemic in that particular village. So it's an absurd stat to focus on, as if there was something wrong with that. They're searching the kids that they think might have drugs or knives in the areas where there's a high drug or knife crime, and that is where a lot of kids of ethnic minorities live. It's not more complicated than that.
No, it really isn't. I think it gives a lot of people pretty much on the left reason to sort of clutch at their pearls and say, isn't it terrible we're not dealing with white children in the same way as black children, when they should be looking at, are we dealing with crime? Yeah. Because that should be the focus. And
you know what black mums want? They want their kids searched to make sure they're not carrying knives.
They want their kids to be safe as well, so they don't mind if someone else is stopped who is the same ethnic group, because it just means that their kid is going to be safe on the streets, and they're going to come home.
And it should be done within the appropriate rules, and it should be done appropriately. And again, it must be a very traumatic thing, and yes, we need to have all of those safeguards in place. One going wrong is too many, etc. But again, it's the way these figures are leapt on and the journalists talking about this, they know exactly what the socioeconomic and demographic context is. They know it all, but they don't say it because it makes a good headline. And let's just stir up a little bit more racial division. Yeah. And then they accuse people like me of being, I'm a race baiter. Like, no, I'm pointing out this is a socioeconomic crime issue. That is, if take a black kid or a white kid, you put them in a middle-class family in a nice area where they're not surrounded by gangs, they won't be carrying a knife or drugs. Yeah. You put a white kid or a black kid in an area in a sink estate, no dad, mum out doing 3 jobs trying to make ends meet, and in a rubbish school with everyone else carrying knives, they're more likely to carry knives and have drugs. It's got bugger all to do with the pigmentation of their skin.
Absolutely, and I think that people should be more concerned at the lack of appropriate adults. That, I think, is more horrific, is that you've got kids being searched who are children, without somebody there looking at them.
That is certainly a concern, isn't it? Can I just ask you also just one other topic I want to get to before the break? Labour talked about dealing with extremism. They want to tackle extremism, particularly extreme misogyny, so hatred of women, the Andrew Tates and the like. They want to treat that as if it's terrorism. There's been some concern that this is going to impact on freedom of speech, because people are allowed to hate people. Yeah. People are allowed to be... You're allowed to think things that are racist or sexist or homophobic or whatever. You are allowed to think. We have freedom. We don't have the thought police yet. Matter of time, I think. But are you concerned about this?
Yes, I am really concerned about this, because who is going to decide what these beliefs are that aren't going to be acceptable? Yeah. Who is going to make that definition? And surely we need to stop demonising young boys, and I find this.
You've got a son, and I've got a daughter. And
I do, and
we're telling girls that they're victims constantly.
Absolutely,
and we're telling boys that they're bad
awful.
people. That everything about them is wrong. Toxic masculinity.
Yeah, and they end up they don't want to talk to girls because they think that they're going to be accused of all sorts of different things. So you end up with a group of men who cannot speak to women because they've too scared to do so in case they are accused of being misogynistic or a sex pest.
Yeah, and just telling them everything about men's normal behaviour and beliefs and feelings is wrong. And again, and then they wonder why they turn to pigs, and he is a disgusting, horrible pig of a man, Andrew Tate, because at least he's talking about strengthening them. And we've created the Andrew Tates. But Yvette Cooper talking about a crackdown on people pushing harmful and hateful beliefs. Well, who? As you say, who gets to decide that? And if we're going to tackle extreme misogyny, why don't we ban the burqa? Because I can't think of anything more misogynistic and hateful of women than making them wear an item of clothing that means they have no face, no individual identity. No one can see them. You can't even hear them properly. They can't see properly. And when young women who've been completely and utterly manipulated and browbeaten, or just sort of, the propaganda on these things, it's empowerment that's going out for lots of young British Muslims, that they choose to wear the burqa. I'm sorry. We used to call that grooming. Actually, that's what it is. So if you really want to ban extreme misogyny, Yvette Cooper, ban the burqa so that all women in this country can have their faces.